Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the canyon. Welcome back to a collision of It Came from the Workbench series ish. Okay, let me see if we can break it on down. I put some of the stuff too far away from me. First mention, this gentleman right here. Where's his radio? This gentleman's called Chungus, because Chungus is irresponsibly heavy for what he is. Chungus is Basecamp RTR, which was purchased to determine, is this a worthwhile endeavor based on the existence of the Basecamp kit. I believe then, I believe now, I believe forever into the future that this platform, as you see right here, was fully intended to be straight axled. And the extent of modification that they did to accommodate portals is they put portals on it. None of the front gen geometry was correct. Many things had to be fabricated to try to get Panhard and Draglink sort of parallel, and it's really almost not possible. The bump steer on this vehicle in its stock configuration is really quite terrible. So where it sits now is, it's mostly Basecamp. Like, we've corrected the geometry. We had to change almost all the links to correct the wheelbase to fit the body that it came with, and then we corrected it again to fit this body, which for some reason has a, I think this guy sits around 305 or something. Right there. Yeah, like 308 on the wheelbase, so it's quite a short wheelbase. Then he got modified to adapt to an array of things. He's running a winch, which is fun. We changed the shocks. We changed the body mass. We had to change quite a number of things to get it to where, basically to get it to parity. To get it to parity with the subject of our sport tuning series, Sandy. And the difference here being that Sandy being a TRX4 Sport, which is now very sadly and inexplicably discontinued. Traxxas no longer does the TRX4 Sport. This is one of the very last. So where the big differences... Oh man, that servo horn is incredibly loose. Look at that thing go. To get Sandy... Well, okay, let's do a side-by-sidey, right? Aftermarket tires, stock tires. Aftermarket shocks, stock shocks. That's the stock rear bumper. All the stock body stuff is in place. This is basically a tuned TRX4, and we went through the series called Suck, setting up camp, trying to get this to be ish, right? Like, to get it to okay-ish, performing enough-ish, came out oddly heavy. So we went through a lot of work to get that to the level of this. You fast forward not quite a year, 10 months or so, and then Axial, Tuxedo Dan, Axial comes out with this, which is what they call the Coyote. And the Coyote is just an absolute refinement of this. It is still chassis mounted steering, but look, they've corrected the front end geometry. I mean, they used some crinkle cut to get there. There's a lot of twists and turns. So the bump steer, or axle sway, more accurately, I haven't really noticed bump steer in operation, but the axle sway is still present. It's very subtle. Let's see that shock tower and this shock tower. This one is a little bit more, there's more holes. You can see there's much more shock mounting holes. They've kicked it back a little bit. They both came on 100mm shocks, and I don't regard either of them really to be suited to 100mm shocks. They want like a 95, 90, 85. I would say probably around a 90 is best. This gentleman is fitted with 90s. They are both our RTRs, the Coyote and the Basecamp, which I'm assuming they're just blowing out at this point, are both on AR45P portal axles. We got the Got the black covers on there. The red, went back to the red covers on here. This is the big change in the Coyote. Okay? So, it's that effectively all of the plastics, like, it's just the little stuff. That is not the same skid. You see this one's got the little longer tails front and rear, and this one doesn't. Of course, the sliders, the bumper mounts are different. The bumpers are different. They made so many changes. There's so many. Look at how they incorporated the body mount in the back just right into the although this is a new piece, but right into the existing stuff. And indeed, this, I wanted to check for myself. Are the rear shock towers different? Yes, they absolutely are. They have a lot more lean for. Look at the shock angle. So, in everything we've done here so far, I haven't seen anything that they did to the Coyote, even like down to the gear cover. See the smooth gear cover? And see that they routed the antenna through this. And then, of course, we've got that front battery tray, which has routing for the wire, and it's adjustable in depth to fit whatever pack you want it to fit. They made and we're gonna figure out if this is suitable. I mean, it lines right up with the fair lead in the front. We'd gone through the work to put a winch on him. We're going to go through the work to put a winch on this. Where is this leading? In the garages, right up there, like the newest garage, which has some of the later, like neither of these really got in. It came from the Workbench series. They both got tuning series. This one got the Sport Tuning Series, STS, and this one got Sucks, the Setting Up Camp series for tuning a base camp. This guy is, as of yet, unnamed because he is a Coyote and he's very new. He's only been here for a few weeks. And it got me to thinking, it got me to thinking about things like there's no such thing as infinite when it comes to this. There's no infinite growth. There's no such thing as infinite space. We all have to make compromise and consideration. So in the vein of compromise and consideration, Sandy is not going anywhere. Sandy is absolutely solid and will forever remain here as an example of what can be done with the least amount of work, which is why we still all hold out hope that Traxxas is going to re-release the Sport in some configuration, that we'll get the Sport back in whatever guise that it comes out in. Meanwhile, we can remain fairly confident that Axial is just going to continue to iterate, because they call both of these 10.3s, because there are some shared bits going all the way back to the 10.3 JLU, horrible gearbox included. So we have to be fine and accepting of that iterative process over at Axial, because they do keep getting better. This is inarguably better than this out of the box. I mean, the shocks don't fit, but they also don't leak. So points where points are due. And that arrives us at a location. This is all updated plastics on here. Basically, there's almost no similar plastic piece. Even this front mount for the servo, that's completely new. These are new. These haven't occurred before. I'm not entirely sure what they're for other than cosmetics. It's new bumpers, it's new bumper mounts. This tray is new, these are new. So the rails and most of the gearbox plastics are what the Coyote shares in common with the base camp. We went through a lot of work to get this to where it is right now. It occupies a slot in a garage, and the slot in that garage is going to Tuxedo Dan. Tuxedo Dan is going to take that slot. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make that, we're going clear off the path. I believe that if you get one of these, if you buy a Coyote, let's break it down for a second. I don't explicitly think you should, right? If it's your first vehicle, if you've never owned an RC car before, if you've never owned a rock crawler before, and you're looking at RTRs, This is an excellent place to start. And I'm not an RTR guy because the number of pluses, pros, certainly outweigh the cons column. You don't have to do much. You can run it on the stock electronics. They're pretty terrible, but all stock electronics are pretty terrible. That's the trap of the RTR that I don't care for. The Trepidor, the tire that comes on this, these big, whomping, 5-inch tall, like far too big. They don't really suit the vehicle. It makes it look like a high trail. This thing should be on portals. This thing should be on something like this. Should be down in here on some MTZs, something about that. It even looks right. Or I don't know, some Boss Man. So, and the shocks don't fit, the tires don't fit, but the shocks are an improvement over the old shocks. And the tires are an improvement over the old tires. So the pluses certainly above the minuses. I recommended the Basecamp kit wholeheartedly because they would typically go on sale for very cheap. We saw them under $200 several times, and that is basically unbeatable at that price point. And now there's this at $349 for the RTR, and I would bet dollars to donuts, whatever that means, that we will see a kit version of this within a calendar year of where I am right now. I would say, I don't know, we just went through the fall releases. We went through New York's Fashion Week of crawlers, and we just saw a whole slew of releases across the brands with the 30th scale stuff, and Red Cat's 32nd scale, and Reef's inexplicable XP10, and we saw a lot of new releases, right? So when that cycle comes around again, I don't know, the spring releases, the early summer releases, I am almost sure that we'll see a kit version of this. Now, it is Axial, so we don't know if they're going to mess it up somehow. All they need to do, honestly, is take this, put straight axles under it, and sell it to you without electronics. If they want to include the body, I'd be absolutely fine, an unpainted body. And also, can we take a moment to I don't know, just a moment of simulated silence for the fact that this is a Proline Coyote, certainly produced in China, not a US-made product, much as this new Trepidor OE is not a US-produced product, and both of them are superior in quality and condition to the regular Coyote and the regular, as far as a crawling tire. And this body is just robust. Certainly one of the better RTR bodies on the market, without question. And their mounting system is fairly simple and elegant. It does make the body a little heavy, but I'm not gonna beef about that too much. If we want super lightweight, comp-ready options, those are things. And if you can learn to drive with a little bit of body weight, like this is a Proline F100. This weighs probably 50% more, 75% more than this. And there's a lot more to this one. But if it's a fight over a garage slot, I'm going to give it to this one because I haven't done anything to Tuxedo Dan aside from change electronics, shocks, and so far, he doesn't even have his own dedicated tire yet because we haven't found the one that sings the song, and we have a number on the rack up here. So what's going to happen right now is Chungus, as we know him, will be reduced. Let's dive right in, shall we? He's gonna get a Swippy swap. He's gonna give up some bits because he has dig fitted on an LCXU, same exact bolt pattern and everything. So we'll take a moment here and we'll pull his whole drivetrain out. This is just double-sided servo tape. Just pops right out. We're going to pull his whole drivetrain out because at the same time, we're going to pull Tuxedo Dan's whole drivetrain out because I want to see. We got plastics change across the board on the Coyote. All for the better, in my estimation. Is the plastics change one of those Samics? Samics, real deal on there. Is the plastic, is it more than cosmetic? And well, I mean, there's tuning options, but are there fundamental structural changes at play? We know the gear cover is different. We've got to unbundle. Because what we're going to do, the idea is, should just be one for the winch, I think. We are going to pull this gearbox. We're going to put this gearbox in Tuxedo Dan. We're going to put Tuxedo Dan's gearbox in here. We're swapping LCXU with dig over there, and we're putting LCXU without dig in here. We will then swap motors between the two. Actually, that's not true. That's not true. Allow me to reconsider. We will pull this whole thing and go in there, and then the motor that goes in here is going to go into the drawer because we're just going to send this off to a forever home is what we're going to do. I was debating over it, and I arrived at it quite literally just about now, where I was like, we go to some effort, not an extraordinary effort, but we go to some effort to not build the same thing over and over and over again. We're trying to build different things. And if the two things side by side, if it comes down to base camp versus Coyote, I'm taking the base camp. I'm taking the Coyote. Someone out there is taking the base camp. So we're going to pull this guy all the way apart. And on the one hand, I start to get irrational because we as humans, we have this tendency to anthropomorphize, right? We give them all, like you say, oh, that blender has got a personality, right? Like that blender works better some days than others, presumably because it doesn't feel like working on that given day. When we know, in our heart of hearts, this is not the case, and these are inanimate objects. These are toy cars that we tool around with, but at the same time, they do feel like they have personalities, right? So when I get to a point like this, where this guy is coming apart without so much as the courtesy of a final run, it's softly drizzling outside. Without even the courtesy of a final run, he ran. He never knew, and I don't know. Perhaps this leads more into the notion of anthropomorphization, that just as we never know, I don't want to get too deep here, just as we never know when our last day will be, Chungus did not know when his last day was. I don't remember when his last day was. I don't remember when he touched rock last. What I do know, you psychopath. I used two different screws with two different heads. Get in where you fit in, I guess, is what that came down to. Well, that is a big servo horn on there. Probably much easier to pull it here. Little spacer on there. Here he comes. Whee! Beyond you. Oh. Thought he was going to farewell us. Oh, another little spacer. Another little spacer. You know, that little guy I made, that little custom guy. Ooh, I should probably, yeah, you're right. You're right. I'm not gonna argue. Should probably, that servo horn feels very specific. So what is that drag link? All right. Screw it in space. We will slap this back together so that wherever this goes to live, someone will have a little bit less work. There we go. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just has to be done. So, on the one hand, I feel a little bit like I'm taking a life. And then on the other hand, some of them, for whatever reason, don't sing that song. So we end up where we end up, which is here. As you watch the death at different speeds. And he ran, here's the thing. He ran great. He ran fine. But start, beginning, and end of for me is it's not necessarily about absolute capability. What it needs to be is individual, right? I mean, everybody picks their favorite rig. If you have more than one, more of anything, pick your thing that you have more than one of. You probably have one that you favor more than the other, right? I'm not just going to come out and say children, but you probably have one thing that you favor more than the other. And the thing of that is, no one can determine, no one knows what that's going to be until they're in it, you know? I would say like 13, 14, 56 is probably what it looks like, about 4 to 1 on there. Then we're going to pull the other guy off and see what that looks like. So when I give something away, when a rig heads out to its presumably forever home, look at how much I had to cut into the chassis to get that over. They corrected most, if not all, of these issues from one to the other because they made the plastic that scooched the servo, and then they adjusted all the front end geometry accordingly. These need to go here because the servo sits at an angle, of all things, because I had to heavily modify this mounting bracket to get an aftermarket servo in a place where it was functional. It was a lot. It was a lot. That rear pumpkin angle looks fantastico. We're going to get a lot of parts swirled together. I believe when I set this guy up, I put in a grand total of 2 zip ties. And it's the joy. It's the joy spark. Does it spark joy? Do you think, is this the one? Like, was there ever that that itch, that tingle to be like, oh yeah, I got to go run that one? And the sad, is it sad? I don't know. The sad truth of it is, maybe not. I don't know if I felt it. So, I will say this: that new plastic with the little bit that sticks out on the front gives you a very narrow angle to remove that drive shaft pin. But as long as there is an angle to remove the drive shaft pin, you'll hear no complaints from me. So, yeah, come with me, and you'll see something I had not anticipated. Okay, take a look at this, right through this area, and you'll see some professionally designed bits, right? This is metal, this is metal. You can see it has multiple holes to where you can adjust that fore to aft. Let's compare that to what an idiot in a shed made. Oh, it's kind of startlingly similar in how it repositions that thing to about the same spot. So you see, they fixed it. And them fixing it well and truly does make me less ornery about having to fix it myself. As long as we're seeing improvement, as long as it's moving in the correct direction, then I am absolutely fine with it. I don't need to unwrap all that. I just need to unplug this, because we're going to drop this out. Thankfully, this bolt mounting pattern is retained. Unthankfully, Axial can't make 2 gearboxes in a row that use the same mounting pattern. That did not drop out, did it? Ooh. It looks the same on the inside. It all looks the same. Oh, well, this has got dig on it. So I was like, why is this butt so big? Let's pop a cover here. So I believe it is just the cover cosmetically. Yeah. Some little changes. I mean, there's definitely a different look at the bead blast finish on there. This is the stock one, so that's a stock 14 tooth. This is definitely a Robinson 14 tooth. All of the parts otherwise look, we're still talking same gearbox. There's that giant opening anticipating the installation of a dig unit. So what it came down to for me is, are these two different enough, or did I go through the better part of a 5-episode series to kind of turn that into what this comes out of the box as? And I don't know why, but I'm not as angry as I feel like I should be. They also they grease the spur and pinion on this fairly heavily. This is, I mean, give me a glob mop. Give me a map. Because, oh my goodness. So, the way this gear cover goes, how it goes like this is not that is an imperfect seal right there. So what you have inside of here is, yeah, it's grease, but that's not great. This is why typically I don't run gear covers, because that is less than optimal, because that is a grinding compound. I don't know. Even thinking back to the Capra, I think the Capra came dry. I mean, this one obviously did. Same exact. Oh well, maybe not. There's a little schmutzy down there. There's a dig. So let's see. Here's the new one, and here's the old one. Yeah. So they made a small but not small. Yeah. I think this one probably had accommodation for a slipper, maybe. This one probably doesn't. I'm all on board for the low profile one. I think it looks better. It is a lot of new plastics. It's a lot of new plastics, and that still genuinely surprises me, because they did it. They didn't explicitly need to. So what we get to do is just sit back and be thankful that they did. You know, I'm not going to change any of that gearing. Just going to swap it straight over. We're going from an 1800 to a 2200, but it's not as big of a change as it might appear on the outside because the Pro has the better controller in it. So you have the exact same low speed control, if not arguably better in the Pro than you do in either of the SEs, in spite of the... Oh, what did I do with it? It's that one. So they're definitely going to have to exchange rear drive shafts because dig. That is the stock, and then the rear for the dig is that one. It's a little bit shorter. We will sort that out. We're just going to put all four of them side by each because I think it's basically, yeah, the rear is like, the front is like that much longer on that one. It's about that much shorter on that one. They're really quite light once you remove that stuff. So, we're going to set this guy up, put his gearbox back in, and then we are going to, we're going to just flip shocks. We're just going to flip shocks straight over. I already started to take one off. These are the friction recoil, and the friction recoil are the topic of a semi-long-term test, and I need to continue testing them. So these are very nicely, freshly built chavs, and all of the fasteners are the correct length. And we're just going to swap these over because we're basically outfitting this guy to, he's going to live on a farm, as they would say. Okay. We've got pretty much everything moved over, I think. And here is why I still stand on, I cannot and will not give Axial credit for the 3-gear. I mean, Coyote, I guess, arguably, and then associated in Traxxas, the 272 Magnum is kind of one of the, I mean, think about it. Traxxas has been making that gearbox 40 years now, the 272. So who did 3-gear best? I don't know. Apparently, the racers, someone mentioned this in a comment on a video, the racers think the 4-gear that's in the RC10, the current RC10 series, is even better. Probably lower center of gravity on it. I haven't driven an associated racing vehicle in a long, long time, so I can't speak to that. But that said, not giving Axial credit for their diamond hard 3-gear, which has kind of just been, I mean, the Vanquish 3-gear is an Axial 3-gear, and the Axial 3-gear is some iteration of the RC10 gearbox, which then became the Stealth, which there's so many 3-gears out there. So the LCXU and the way that it integrates its dig is what I regard to be the best gearbox Axial has ever done. And I mean, you can't, that's full drivetrain, baby. That's everything except a motor. That is smooth, right? You see what I'm saying? It is well done. And these are some proper heavy damped shocks on here. Unfortunately, I don't have any mounted because I think wherever this goes to live, we do not have the space for it. Wherever this goes to live, I mean, it is a looker. I think I still stand by the notion that this body was basically made for this at that 300 and sub 310 wheelbase. I don't have any class 1s mounted, but I think that this could be a pretty good 1.5 rig, though the arches are cut up a little high. And then, of course, if you take any class 2, like a Tesla, look at that, you'll get a little in there. That's why I think maybe 1.5 on that. I don't know if anybody's interested in building up a 1.5. How about on a Klingon, which is a little bit sort of in the middle? Get on there. That's not bad. It's not bad at all right there. So, whisper a fond farewell to Chungus. He's a good-looking guy. And he will go on to his forever home, wherever that might be. Just like that. Just like that. Slider with no electronics, not counting the winch and the modified SC-480X to run the winch. With the titanium front and rear. He came out strongly okay. You know, you're going to have the authentic Canyon dust on there, and the box will have as many tire foams as I can possibly fit. I mean, you can tell how many times this guy has been driven. So, and look at that, a proper pinion angle. So the drive shafts basically look brand new. It was a fun experiment. And as we transition further into experiments, we're going to get to where we are with this guy right here. He has been fitted with the Reefs XP shocks, which desperately need to be built with, they're full of 300 CST. I'm thinking, geez, 50 weight, 60 weight, 70? They feel empty, but I know they're not because I filled them. These shocks were designed for 30 weight oil. No, they weren't. If they were, you shot and you missed. That is not a heavy spring, and there's no damping at all there. But I only put them in there to keep the suspension links in place. The red ones obviously went there. The friction recoils are right here. They still feel a hair underdamped. A hair underdamped. So whatever is in them, and I have no recollection of that, will be replaced with something heavier because these will be going on Woody. Because the frictions are full springers, not minis, I have a huge option because this guy right here with the full hard body, he is our alternate level test gentleman for class 1.5, really, because he's the full carbon fiber chassis, but with I definitely have springing options for this. So this will be those are just GTS. Where do we know GTS work? Everywhere. So the GTS will come out of it. My God, the weight of this. I'm not kidding. He's got to be 9 pounds. So these will likewise probably have at least 80 weight in them and be sprung appropriately for a vehicle of this weight. Finally, a use for like Traxxas Blue Band, Element Blue Band, you know, those 3 to 4 pound springs. So the recoils will be rebuilt and put on here, 90s in place of 90s. For now, they're going to go in this drawer right here. And then the, good God, oh, Woody, you big boy. And then these will be rebuilt to, it's crazy. I don't know if I've ever felt a shock that I know has a piston in it and I know is full of oil and has that little damping on even 300 CST. You put that 300 CST, you know, it comes in everything. Okay? And most shocks will noticeably slow down. This is Element Factory Teams on that that was his body. On that exact oil. With a tire on it. Wild. So if that was indeed the design, they didn't do it. They didn't get there. But these were sent in, and I had them packaged up. The envelope should still be right here. I had them packaged up to send back to the guy who sent them in, and he was like, no. Keep them there. Test them. And they will at the very least get some rudimentary run-throughs as we look for oil to build up around down the bottom of here. Once they're refilled with, like, I get this feeling it has to be Traxxas 70 or 80 weight, because I don't know if there's anything in it. We went through the whole breakdown where basically that entire shock is proprietary. So it's definitely not a shock that I'm recommending over any other shock. If you've bought them, they are functionally and mechanically fine. Are they worth their money? That is not for me to determine. The 45 kg is out. It's a long card. That will go back in the drawer. Waiting for some new build. The 45 kg is out of Chungus. And that will also go back in the drawer, because we already have a servo that is going to be fitted to this guy. Boy, you take all that stuff off and you just leave this. He's a pretty light guy. I have said, and pre-disclaimer, no one can attack someone else's taste. Taste is the most subjective thing that there is. I don't like red onions. I don't like them. On the same level that I don't know, on a higher level than that which I do not like red onions, I do not like the music of Lindsey Sterling. I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. I hate it. And I believe that hate is something that is irrational, right? Hate is an irrational thing. If somebody came to your house and burgled you, what you have against that person is not hate. You have a reason. There's a background to that. If somebody stole your cat, you don't hate them. You're like, what a terrible example of a human being. So that is dissimilar to the feeling that I have for AR-45Ps. And I don't know what it is. I don't explicitly know what it is. But the AR-45P, the AR-5 portal axle, is one of my least favorite crawling axles. And I don't know why. It's objectively fine. It uses all of the same gears as other axial and non-axial offerings. It is really, truly not that far removed from a Mias nylon. Really, I only had a front to grab out of the thing. But I mean, they use the same gears in the middle. These use Vanquish gears at the end. An even closer representative would be 10 Pro Portal. Now, the 10 Pro Portal is one of my very favorite axles. Now, largely unusable. This is my last set not attached to something, and I'm not going to go out and spend $200 on a pair of these, regardless of how good they are, because I could get a set of Mias nylon straights and a set of Mias nylon portals and a bag of hardware to rebuild the nylon portals for less than the cost of just a pair of these. But I have them. And I do not like AR-45Ps. So we are going to remove the AR-45Ps from this. And what I'm hoping is that we're basically just going to slap them on. Now, I do know one thing. Is it a wider is better situation? Because AR-45P, about 185 pin to pin, and these are about 200. So we're talking right off from the crack of the bat, 15 millimeters wider. And then the other motivation is, here's our front, with the full, was that a bug? Is there a bug in there? With the full brass up in the front. BTA, the best implementation of BTA out there, and fitted back there, A66 FHLW, which I regard truly, genuinely, and to anyone who asks, as the gold standard of LP servos. Because when they were still available on Amazon, you could get one for about $125. It produces 60 kilograms of torque at a 0.100 second transit time at 8.4 volts. And it is the absolute guy. These axles have been fitted with double cardons, so you have the steering angle of a road grader. And Axial made me do this by making probably my favorite axial axle, my favorite axial gearbox. And then they made a skid that has mounting for 4-link. So we are going to 4-link this, and 4-link front ends inside C channels, it often doesn't work quite the way you want it to. Anyone who has converted something like a Phoenix, Vanquish Phoenix, to 4-link in the front knows that it fights you a little bit. We are definitely going to, like, this is not going to be the link. Just look at that guy all the way up to the front, and then look where the links attach here. They're going to be 30 millimeters shorter. So what we're going to do is we're going to try our very best. Well, the rear end will tell us how arduous this is indeed going to be. And see, as I said, this is why I didn't have to worry about the fact that the shocks are absolutely not filled. The goal, my goal on the day is at most mock it up. Get the axles fitted to the rig. Get it sitting down on top of them, because then I've got to do the whole deal. I've got to rebuild the shocks. I know that I don't. All right. I know that I don't have to rebuild the axles because they are fresh and in excellent condition. Don't fight me. Come on. So we'll see. Ooh, that rod end is a little loose. That axle is so smooth. There's absolutely nothing wrong with this axle functionally. I just don't like it. I just don't like it. Are these two screws the same length? That is very unaxial. Do these use the same size rod? What? Are we just going to bolt a 10 Pro axle right on here? I mean, the geometry should be essentially the same. The drive shaft length should not change appreciably. They use the exact same gears on the inside. We will have tuning options. Maybe not aplenty, but we will definitely have tuning options. Let's see what angle. I won't know until both links are in. So I'll say right now, I like it better already. Look at that pinion. Look at those flat down. Bow. So the link geo was already there. Nice and straight. Now, operating on C channels is going to give us a lot of distinct limitations to link mounting and suspension tuning options. It's one of the drawbacks. That's why I still think, as far as I'm concerned, they need to make another class. They need to make 2 more classes, because Class 3 is just starting to look like, Class 2 is starting to look like Class 3 minus 4-wheel steer, and Class 3 is starting to look like junior sportsman. So we don't really pay attention to much of that here. We kind of make up our own rules. I'd rather see flat rails in my modified Class 1 than I would see flat rails in Class 2, because I think Class 2 should be like truck representative, but not so slaved to the stuff that proper Class 1 has to adhere to. Now, what I have not looked at is, what do I need to do? I figured I would just drop this axle first. We'll just do this. Okay. All right, Axial. They put a little don't go anywhere juice on it. Wow. Of note, blue thread lock is for fasteners 1/4 inch, aka 6.35 millimeters and larger. So when you use it on something smaller than that, it's basically super glue. It's almost super glue. We didn't have to go to heat, but there's a bunch of powder falling out. They did not mess around on... That is just 2 screws, right? Okay, let's see. Yeah, I mean, they basically glued it together. I figure let's just leave it attached. Where's your buddy? Where's your partner? May as well just leave it attached. They go in the axle drawer together. So, as I said, rear should be fine. Upper is absolutely not going to be right. And what do we have to do? Here's something that I've never investigated on the Coyote. How are the sliders attached? Because I see a screw here. And I see a top that comes off. So we're getting a little more forensic on the Coyote. Perhaps unintentionally. While I was removing the other stuff, I also... Okay. Okay. You're getting axialed a little bit. You have to... The screws through the battery tray are slightly different length. The battery tray is fairly elegant. You have a lot of screws to adjust the depth. And if you're running a 2200, drops right in. Like I say, I'd put a 2200 in everything. Okay, if I remove all 3 of those, that doesn't move. That is still super rigid. Pull that one out of the chassis. Nothing. Let's try. We've got 3 little notches here. Okay, so not what I would have thought. This part slides, and so you do not have to take the tray out. You do have to take these 3 and this one. And then we've got the rib structure under there. And there is the hole to which of course, thought I could get away with it. I was playing with fire. I thought I could get away with it. So if you want to make a change to link length, you only have to take out a couple screws and then get a screwdriver and decent amount of sand in there. I appreciate the design, and I think it's robust, and I think it goes together well. But at the same time, I mean, I do like that this part, the upper part of the slider, stays attached. Now, it does have a little bit of that sense of traxxification, which is, this was pretty clearly designed to fit a body like the Coyote that it came with. So if you try to go, I believe they use a 10 Pro style screw pin. They use a 10 Pro screw pin to mount the front upper. This is only an issue to anyone involved, because if you were to just drop an M3 down there, it will just fall right in. It's not threaded in any way. Now, you can maybe get away with it, because if you're at home and you're like, I want to 4-link my Coyote. The only place I have found these is Axial. You can order them directly from Axial. The kit the RTR definitely did not come with one in the hardware bag. Well, let me rescind that momentarily. Definitely did not come with one in the hardware bag. So you're gonna have to procure these, as it is the only way to do it, other than, and we'll try to do it right now. That's why we're here, right? An M3 by 30 with a lock nut should be able to retain it. So let us see. Let's grab that link. Put this through like this. Get in there. This will go straight through, because basically there's nothing to thread into. And it doesn't look like it'll interfere with the links in any way. You could probably actually get away with an M3x27 if you happen to have one on hand. And then we grab ourselves a lock nut and our mechanical fingers here. And we'll just clamp this down real quick to see if this is at all feasible. And of course, because we can't put our hands where we need, that's another nut straight in the trash. If you're putting a lock nut on and it does that motion where it just yaws, just throw it away, because you've put in a 45-degree angle on the first thread, and it's just going to ruin itself and or whatever it's being threaded onto. Whoever happens to win. We tighten that down. Yeah, 27 would be better. This is the route I'm going to go, because there's no way the link is going that high, and I don't believe it's going to get too close to anything. So it is easily remediable, which is fantastic. Now, we've got to pull that right back out, because, as I said, to put a 10 Pro front in there, we don't know what we're going to have to do. Mental note 2727. Now, the full front truss is in here. I'd like to maybe slap a winch in here. It's kind of a thing to put a winch on there. But it's all going to be about how does this sit? And we are not going to attach shocks right now, because they absolutely get in every possible way of trying to get upper links fitted. We're just going to put a little bit so it doesn't fall out. Then we're going to check our wheelbase, because our wheelbase should be somewhere in the neighborhood of that like 310-ish. If it gets a little longer, that's fine. If we could go a little longer in the rear, that would be fine as well. I would not have a problem stretching this thing out to, our buddy 330. That is going to sit right there like that. And I don't think, I don't think it will. I think that with this setup as is, right about there, I think with this setup as is, I don't know if it's possible to run a winch. If you go BTA on here, the winch will put the spool directly where the servo horn is. So I think the winch is basically chassis mounted steering only. I don't think the winch will clear BTA or SOA, because in the servo and axle, it would put it right there. Are we going to go through the hullabaloo and the hullabala to put CMS on this? Rebuild the 10 Pro axle? No, we're going to run it just like this. We're going to run it just like this, because this is what I want to run it. 3, did we lengthen? We sure did. 315 with links, lasers straight, 315. So we picked up 10 millimeters of wheelbase. The question is, where did we pick it all up? Yeah, you can see it's right there. So we'll pull that stuff off, and we may indeed end up having to find an OG base camp front bit up here and swap that out, because to me it looks like it's possible that fair lead, it might not get in the way. It might be fine. It might be fine. So we'll go from there. But what has to happen right now is a subcompact Link Olympics, where we try to find those front uppers. They are going to be not not crazy short, but pretty short. And the idea that we'll get them on the first try is not inside my head. We'll probably have to do this 5 or 6 times. And we're just going to pull this guy apart and steal his ends. And then we're going to dig through the bin. Oh, yeah, we're going to dig through the bin, find 2 more. We're going to get that front axle, and we're going to get him setting down on it, and we're going to take a look at it. And then we're going to go, that looks pretty good. Let's go have lunch. So, not nearly as bad as I would have anticipated. I think I made the front links... I think I made the front links 4, maybe, it might have been 5 times. It might have been 5 times, which is not bad, because what I found out is if you're foolhardy enough to just try to make a Coyote Pro, you need a link between 80 and 83 millimeters eye to eye when it's finished for the front. And it does fit better if you use a high clearance turned on its side. Look at the, like there's no room there. The 10 Pro compared to the AR-45P definitely puts the pumpkin a little bit more over that way. I'm assuming to accommodate the BTA the way it does. I mean, look at that servo. It's just nested in there. It is no problem. The 27s look like they are well clear of anything with a lock nut on it. This thing is, that's with spur pinion and motor, is extraordinarily smooth. Our wheel track, and I mean, these are -10s, so we're going to be 10 millimeters wider than a 10 Pro on a normal wheel. And so we should be, this, is it an inch? Is it 25 millimeters or is it 40? Outside to outside on this is 270. So we're probably going to want to come down. That is 10 5/8. We're probably going to want to go to a more neutral offset wheel. This is unrunnable in its current configuration because the drive shafts dropped right in. Didn't have to do anything, and they are perfect. Look at that thing in full squish, and then they're like, it is pretty solid. I would genuinely like to see the rear axle back about 10 more millimeters. I think it can make better use. The shock just feels like it just runs out. Bang. We have a decent amount of droop. So it's going to get run at this length, which on the 10 Pros came out at 310. It's still right there. Will we gain 2 millimeters? Right around 310. I couldn't tell exactly what it was going to be until we got those front uppers on there. It rolls crazy smooth. I just grabbed wheels off the rack. We're going to obviously have to tire testival this guy and wheels as well to find out where he sits. Where he sits right there on these springs, this springing feels just about right. These are the yellow band from the Reefs assortment. They sit just about perfect. And I think, and like this doesn't look too bad either. I think this guy is going to be an excellent foray into how far can we go staying between C channels. I thought, going axial to axial, it was going to be fairly straightforward to just swap the AR-45 to the axle that I prefer. That is about a tire's worth. Yeah. And I had said that neither the Coyote nor the Basecamp, despite coming from the factory with 100 millimeter shocks, are particularly long travel setups. So we're going to deal with the 310 because of what, and here's why I would like to push it back about 10 millimeters. In the front, excellent. Like the approach is fantastic. You can get it right up in there. In the rear, on the other hand, about 10 millimeters would put the tire out, basically, even with the pumper, and get us to about a 318, 319, 320 wheelbase, which is, I think, probably where I would like to be, but we're going to try it at 310. 310 with dig should be plenty agile, and I did notice that fitted with this horn, we get not quite full steer. I just need to replace this with a high clearance, because what it's causing is too much of an angle, and it's hitting right up the front, because that is a decent amount of steering angle, but it's not like what we're getting on that side. That's throwing it all the way over, because it doesn't, there's no interference, there's nothing striking. So I didn't notice prior that it had more steering angle to one side than the other. Also, this guy is just a completely, entirely new piece. It does mount in the exact same fashion, which is great. But this guy and this guy were definitely developed in concert. There's a little bit of a rampy, but they fit right together. So this is just the old style 10-3 one, because this little guy, I don't want to grind it off. Like, I've got another set of 10-3 rails. I would like to build, we'll probably see a 10-3 class 1.5 here with whatever bits we had left over. I am going to reattach this, but it won't fit because this guy has these 3 round guys at the back, and he goes right there. He won't go. So I would like bracing in the front, but the longer I look at it, the more I think, like, say through that one or that one, aluminum spacer, 2 screws on the outside, lock nuts to hold these down, and then just omit this piece entirely, because at full squish, there's no interference. Like, it goes right through it. It will fit. But I gotta grind. Do I want to just single bar, or do I just want to grind those holes off the back, which will basically render it no longer a servo mount, which is what leads me to think maybe just a bar, as long as it doesn't interfere with the body mount in any way. So this is, I guess, it sure feels like we have made our way to Coyote Pro, and I am looking forward to, as I said, most likely not deeps, not minus 10s. 270 on a 310 wheelbase is that's a wide fella right there. It all lines up with the body pretty well. We've got all the electronics to sort out. I mean, sorry, that is monster truck wide. That is really wide. Drag link looks, I mean, tie rod looks to be about right. Maybe a millimeter, maybe a turn and a half too long. We'll go through all of that. I love that static bag on those MTZs. I want those MTZs to go on something. We also have the 2.2 MTZs, which basically stand just a little bit taller. This guy, the way he's configured and with how much clearance and with how low travel the kind of whole setup is, and that is with the changes in geometry to the towers, I think we can get away with most any tire we want. It sits, I would actually like to see right about there. Well, I forget, we've got, hey, we're going to get to use the reefs thing. Hey! Which are the little adjustable screw cups so that we can get this guy to sit just like, I want him 3 millimeters higher static. But I won't know where to make those adjustments until we've sussed out what plastics are going to go where. I think I'm going to like it. I kind of like it already. And in the Canyon fashion, when we determine that something is going to be remaindered, when somebody is going to go onto a forever home, it frees up all of the stuff that was in that thing. So basically, almost all of the electronics required to build a class 1.5. So we use all parts of the Buffalo. So all those electronics will go on to live again, and Chungus will go off to live wherever he lives, and it will be glorious for all of us, because I think Tuxedo Dan, who is now a Coyote Pro, This, not having driven it, just looking at what I'm looking at underneath, and the ability to do that and have it sit and stand and not flop over, leads me to think that even with the tiny RTR-sized links, instead of beefier links down low, all that slidey bits, and then 10 Pro portals with the weights in the front, I don't know. I feel pretty good about it. Let's get a real informal one here on the way out. Let's throw this here. Oh, hold on. Instead of this, could we just modify that a little bit to put a servo right there? This is a debate that I go through with myself regularly. Better to have the weight lower or better to have the weight farther forward? That's a judgment call. Will this drop down, or are we touching the battery? We're definitely touching the battery, but we can get around it. Ooh. Now, see? These are the things that sneak up on you. You don't expect it. So this would be RTR minus the weight of that receiver. It's the only thing that's not attached is a receiver. He's not going to be light. No, 3162. 3162, aka 698. Just a hair shy of 7 pounds. 7 pounds is, I mean, we got a lot of weight in that front axle. That 10 Pro front axle is a good way past a pound. We just dropped to 6'6". We just dropped to 6'2". This is not a remarkably, oh yeah, when you pick it up now, it is very forward weight biased. 584 and 547. So 5.5 RTR with, I don't remember what these are, but I want to say 160, 170 grams per side. So call it 340 total up there in the front out of, cycle all the way through, out of 2480. So what is that, 15% of the vehicle weight is in just those knuckles? His sprung to unsprung should be pretty good, even with a dig box, even with the weight of the body. As I said, yeah, we're 2,200 grams. 5 pounds dead right there, minus, the choose your own adventure stuff. Which wheel and tire combo are you going to go with? What body are you going to run? Are you going to run this one? Are you going to move this over? As I said, if you were to take this one and transfer the clipless stuff over, okay, so we are like, it's oscillating right around 5 dead. 5.25. 5.5. So this body weighs twice what this body weighs. So if you want to save that weight, you all you have to do is trade in the convenience of the clipless. The body posts all exist. So what are you willing to sacrifice? I mean, you could do it to this body. It'll have some extra holes in it, and it is much thicker. But I will take the options 100%. You could have an Outrunner combo in it, which is going to save money over a Fusion. I wouldn't sacrifice the dig. I want the dig in there. To me, Coyote Pro requires a dig. And I think this particular Coyote Pro, I think Tuxedo Dan is going to be pretty good. I think he is definitely going to have a place. And I think Sandy is going to have really tough competition up against this. My first inclination is to, and what we probably will, they're still mounted. we can just throw the tires that came on it back on. See how it does. And they will be significantly less wide on this Injora wheel than it will be on those deeps. So in the next installment of whatever this is, I do it every time. Just leave them in the wheels and lose them in the wheels. The next installment of this, we will see. I will more than likely, what I imagine will happen is I will finish him. Not pointed out, but definitely worthy of mention. The very back of this servo mount on the 10 Pro axle actually hits the chassis. So I've got to... almost everything has to come back off. That's the beauty of these. This is that, you know, when you see the behind the scenes on like Les Stroud, the Survivor Man, where he has to walk all the way to the end of the glacier in camera and then turn around, walk all the way back, pick up the camera, and then walk all the way to the end of the glacier again. We do some small version of that here where I put it all together, only turn the camera off, take it all completely apart, make all the adjustments that need to be made, and then put it back together. So when we're at full compression, I think the wheel kind of hides. Yeah, bonk, 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 bonk. And you can see there's still silver. That's the simplest adjustment that I'm going to have to make on this thing at all, which is remove the servo bracket from the servo, remove the servo from the bracket, and just, heck, I might just remove the links, rotate the whole thing forward, and just Dremel a little angle on the back so that we can get full compression. Those shocks are going to need some serious awl in there. And there, you run it like this, and people might not know that it's a Coyote Pro. Oh, this is a much more conventional. How much width did we drop? We dropped 10 millimeters. Just going to those down to 260. And these have longer hubs in them. So that is probably going to be Tuxedo Dan's wheels, because regardless of the tire, because I think they look great. You know, he's got a Gentil chapeau. He might as well have some sweet bright chrome wheels to go with them. And I will remove the, I want to say these are 14s, and I'll put 10s on it. I'll take another 8 millimeters on it. I'll just build over a little 250, or we'll drive it like this and go, oh yeah, 260 is all right. 260 is wider than I would ordinarily go with on a vehicle with a 310 millimeter wheelbase, but you know what? You never know. I promised myself a burrito, and I'm going to do that. I'm going to thank you so much for joining us here indoors. It's positively gloomy outside. Will the next one just be the proof of concept? Yes. The next one, installment of whatever series this falls into, will be the proof of concept edition, where I will get him cleaned up and tightened up and the rest of the screws put in and make sure everything is tightened down and get the electronics properly installed and do all of that. And we'll take him out and we'll run him on the Treps, just like this. Just on this wheel tire insert combo, just like that. Only cleaned up and put together correctly. And then the episode following will be a tire testival, and I'm looking up at the rack, and ladies and gentlemen, you're going to have to buckle in for that one, because I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I see 9, maybe 10 that I would like to test, and that is generally too many for a tire testival. A tire testival is best 3 to 5. So we're going to have to mentally math out how we're going to, how quick is the cut? Like how long does each tire get to run out there? I like to do at least 5 minutes, and 10 of them would turn into a 2-hour-long episode. So, as I said, everything I did today, I have to undo and then do again. So this was an investment of about 3.5 hours is what went in to get him to where he is right now. and it'll be another 3.5 hours to get him together, and then we'll record it, and then we'll be ready for the next one. And I will see you in the next one. And in between now and then, I hope you one and all do your very best. Have a good one, everybody. We will see you again here in the canyon. Tuxedo Dan looks forward to seeing you. God, he is a brick. He is the weight of a phoenix. And I think a lot of it has to be that front axle. So my hopes are high but moderated. Both that I'll see you next time and that he does well. And hopefully, we'll all find out together.